Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the Conscious Lover series. My name is Miko Lau, and I am a men's intimacy coach devoted to guiding men back to the hearts, to experiencing liberated sacred sexuality, and to create a harmonized polarity in their love and relationships. And joining me today, we have our very first female guest, Joanna Shakti. And I am so excited to have Joanna joining us because I feel deep down there's such a different kind of energy and a different kind of power to hear from a woman's perspective when it comes to becoming a conscious lover. So with that being said, Joanna, I would love to give you the honor to introduce yourself and to share with our listeners a little bit more about who you are.
Thank you, Miko. And I just want to celebrate what you are up to. Is everything that you just described is such an integral and core and heart experience for me and why I do what I do. And you talked about the polarity. And so as I introduce myself, Joanna Shakti, the soul love mentor, founder and creator of the Ecstatic intimacy space and program series, that when you use the word polarity, that was the beginning for me over 20 years ago now. And it actually wasn't the beginning. I walked around saying, what's wrong with all the men? Was really the beginning. I had married what I thought was Prince Charming, and we had our sexual issues, and we had our trust issues, and we had our love issues, many of which were related to what was happening internally within me. And yet he got the brunt of a lot of that. And on top of that, we had significant polarity issues. We were both electrical engineers. We were both getting our MBAs. I was really proud in my corporate career of outmanning the men. And I'd also been conditioned not to trust men through my own family dynamics. And so while I wanted to be loved by a man and I was turned on by a man, I also belittled men. I emasculated men. I didn't trust men. But I wanted to feel so safe in bed so that I could let go with a man. And so these dynamics were pulling in opposition so much. And I started pursuing, like, why isn't this working? And why can't I have orgasms? And why do I meet all the sexually inhibited men? Oh, fast forward a little bit, it was never them, it was me. Now, they had their own dynamics because they showed up with me. And it's always true that we show up in reflection with each other. And it was really my own responsibility taking for my own orgasm. And being able to communicate with a man what I needed, what was so important for me, and doing that in a way that didn't make him wrong, but brought us into partnership and union together so that we could dance through this. And so my journey from climbing the corporate ladder in the oil and gas and high-tech industries of Houston, Texas with the good old boys in the 90s was my own wake-up call around polarity and around self-responsibility and how that played into orgasm, how that played into corporate success, how that played into attraction, and where it was hot and fast and where it then fizzled out or where it was sustainable. And so that wake up to the sacred masculine, the sacred feminine, how that played within me and between us. And I came to, it was fall of 2001. My own awareness is I went, oh, I'm leaving corporate because I need to serve women who've gone through the pain that I've went through. And I need to serve the men that love us, because I've put them through a lot of pain and they get put through a lot of pain. And so for 20 years now, first starting with my own work, my own journey to clear out and discover, but then beginning getting to bring together sacred sexuality, spirituality, masculine and feminine dynamics, consciousness, leadership, and true love to really create a dance of authenticity, intimacy, and ecstasy.
Wow. I'm just so blown away by that entire story and explanation, because I can resonate to the core of my being hearing everything that you share. I also grew up in a family dynamics where the role model of the feminine, my mom, has always been so masculine. And I feel like within my body, I've picked up a lot of these blockages when it comes to receiving the masculine. And I look at this union between the masculine and the feminine shows up everywhere in the way I'm receiving money, in the way I receive men, relationships. It's everything. So I just would love to talk to you, Joanna, all day about this topic, but I know we have a very limited time. So I would love to hear from you a quick description of what is the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine. What does that mean? Let's say for a listener that's encountering these topics for the first time ever.
Yes. So again, I could talk for a whole weekend on just this one question, and I actually do quite often. And let's hone it in so that we can begin to grasp it, because I knew those words go back 20 years when I was in a workshop, and I'm like, I know those words, but I've never really thought about how they applied to my life. So in a nutshell, masculine energy is our forward moving, directed, generative, penetrating, focused, get shit done, if you will, energy. It makes things happen. It's an active energy. And not that the feminine is passive, because that's one of our resistances to the feminine. There is an engaged way of being. So the feminine, if the masculine is more of our doing energy, the feminine is more of our being energy. It's creative, it's expressive, it's dynamic, it's boundless. It is the wild and uninhibited energy that so many masculine men are drawn to in our sexuality, but they're scared of in our emotionality. And so they love us and they're afraid of us sometimes. And depending on their own relationship with their own femininity, because now with the feminine being the creative and expressive and vulnerable and receptive word you used, and we all have both energies within us. And the best model of that is the yin and the yang symbol. The yang side, or the masculine side of that symbol, has a fully enclosed circle of yin, feminine energy. The feminine has a fully enclosed circle of yang, but they are not equal in size. The circle is not equal to the space that holds the circle. It's actually a smaller percentage. And so it's not, and again, there's nothing that's accurate or true for all human beings. What we want to find is what is our genuine relationship internally, authentically, with our masculine and our feminine. For most, one is predominant and one is secondary. That is not always true. And for many male bodies, if we talk about the gender spectrum, those on the male end of that spectrum, most have predominant masculine energy, but not all. And on the other side, most female bodies have predominant feminine energy, but not all. So what's important in this journey is to find out what's true for me, and then have the permission to reclaim it and embody it in our professions, in our kitchens, in our activities, in our kissing, in our loving, in our lovemaking.
I love this conversation so much because I feel like it's, first of all, not talked about enough. Like most of us maybe probably hearing about this for the first time ever, but it is so integral to every aspect of our life. And Joanna, where I stand with this is like I've also been doing a lot of these works, harmonizing these energies within myself. And I can say in so many ways, there's so much ahead of me that I get to integrate and to harmonize. But where I truly believe is that I feel like the power of the feminine can be so potent when it comes to igniting a man, let's say the masculine, to awaken,
Yes,
to really stand in their power. So would you, I don't know where you stand on that, but would you elaborate on that?
absolutely. And I think we serve each other. So now there's the masculine and feminine within, and then there's the masculine and feminine between. So now moving to, we spoke a moment ago about within. Now let's talk about between, which you're pointing to. And we feed each other. So yes, does the feminine, when she is lit up, ignite the masculine to become more of who he is, stand taller, find his core, and be inspired to move, to pleasure her, to care for her, to hold honor for her? Absolutely, our femininity inspires that. And that presence that the feminine can feel in a man, how he stands in his own being. Is he connected to his core? Does he trust himself? Does he know who he is? Because when he trusts himself, when he stands in his core, when he knows what he's up to and where he's going, oh, he's so hot. So he inspires the feminine. And not only is he hot, he's trustworthy, which allows us to light up and let go, which then our letting go and lighting up feeds his standing in his power. And so now we become this infinite dance of being more, fuller, deeper, and eventually in complete union in our distinction.
Yeah, so good when you're describing this conscious present man, like I'm getting turned on. It is so attractive and absolutely right. And when we receive that kind of presence and that trust with this masculine energy, like the feminine can fully surrender and her wild fluidity can just be explosive and expressive. And it is such a beautiful dance and the union of these two energies. And I love where this conversation is going because the reason why I'm committed to this Conscious Lover series is I see it on a bigger picture, on a global scale. A lot of the problems, so-called problems that we are experiencing in our society today is because of this imbalance, this lack of harmony between these energies. So let's take it to a global level. Let's take it to what happens when we have this union, this sacred union. How do we see that unfolding in our society?
Yeah, well, and it's interesting. I'm going to take this someplace that I didn't necessarily expect to take it, but I hate this phrase. And I don't use the word hate very often, but I really despise this phrase. And I'm going to bring it in for a moment because I think it speaks to a part of what you're pointing to.
Mhm.
And it's the phrase toxic masculinity. And I'm going to use it as minimal as possible because of how much I despise it, because I do not believe it serves our society on any level. And it has become this buzz phrase and this judgment that becomes more judgment on the masculine. And that is not to deny that we have had problems in our society. Part of what's happening in our society is because of the misunderstanding and the misuse of the masculine, the unconscious or shadow sides of the masculine. And it's where the heart is absent, the yin is absent in the center of that. So masculinity in and of itself is amazing. There is nothing bad, nothing toxic, nothing unconscious about masculinity in and of itself. but how it's used, and particularly when it is devoid of the yin. When you spoke earlier that the yin is so important, but it's not just in feminine beings. So when we were talking about that man that's hot because he knows who he is, he's hot, that is hot. But when that same man opens his heart and can feel and has that yin sensitivity and vulnerability, not at the expense of his potency, his power, his penetrative nature, not at the expense of, but at the addition to, at the heart of. Now, he's unbelievably attractive and he's unbelievably powerful in the world. And so our climate of harmonizing masculine and feminine leadership, not that one is higher or better than the other, waking up to stop judging the masculine as toxic and patriarchy is bad. It is, yes, there are its limitations. We need both in harmony, not in balance, because in some moments it's more feminine. In some moments it's more masculine. And that ebbs and flows with our dynamics in our personal lives, in our political lives, in our community lives, in our family dynamics. It is what is the moment needing, and for all of us to have access to go into the feminine, to go into the masculine, and know its power to serve in each moment. And the feminine without her roots, without her boundaries, is part of the problem as well. The feminine's abandonment of her masculine. We have got what happens in our world for so many women is that there's a masculine front, but there's no masculine core. And so we're overamped in masculine and underamped in masculine at the same time. And that's our responsibility to respond to and get conscious with, is our own inner relationship. So the feminine needs her masculine, the masculine needs their feminine. And when we do that, everything will lead us back to love. Will lead us back to connection and honor and respect of every single human being, community, expression, country in the world. We need this so badly, and I am so thrilled that you are speaking to this because it is not spoken enough.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Joanna. Learning from you, just sharing all of that, it was very humbling in a lot of ways, because at the beginning of my journey doing this work, yeah, I also used the term toxic masculinity, and there was so much judgment within my own body that I was projecting outwardly. And I absolutely love how you said that the feminine also gets to do our work when it comes to embracing and rooting down in the masculine core. And I love the distinction that you mentioned, that yes, we can have this masculine shield. We can show up as like, I get things done, I don't need no man kind of persona. That's me too in a lot of ways in the past. But it's a difference when we can have that embodied masculine, that connection to the core. And would you say that when a woman knows how to embody that, that reflects outwardly in the masculine energies that she interacts with, that inspires the masculine to root down? Is that how it works?
I don't know if I would say it exactly that way.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, yes. I had to feel into your question. Like, yes, in that there is her wholeness is her wildly fully embodied femininity and grounded, which is where her trustworthiness comes in, because we both need to be trustworthy. So her trustworthiness comes in when she can be that full, intense, wild expression and have roots. So he feels her trustworthiness and her fullness, her wholeness, which then does inspire him to both move up in his quote unquote standing erection and root down in what holds that erection. So yes, I just had to feel into the way that you were asking the question and the wholeness of the dynamic, but absolutely, which then inspires the masculine is inspired to care for, to protect the feminine. The conscious masculine wants to protect the feminine. And we've been in so much judgment of the masculine. It's time to wake up and reawaken and see the wholeness of what's possible here and the truth of this dynamic.
Yeah, so Joanna, as we are coming to the very last bit of this conversation, I would love for you to let's anchor down some of the tangible action steps that maybe some of our listeners are just so ready to step into this work, so ready to becoming this conscious lover. What are some action that they can initiate and they can step into?
Yeah, well, the first is really to look at our own relationship to these words, because there's a lot of judgment of masculinity and there's a lot of judgment of femininity. And if we have judgment and we are those energies, I see so many masculine men who have so much judgment of being that guy, of a fear of being that toxic expression, that they have shut down their masculinity. And oh, by the way, there's so much judgment in our world of femininity as being weak. So first we have to begin to look at our own relationship with those words, because second, it's to find out how they authentically express within us. But if we have judgment on them, even if we discover that they're authentically there, we can't embody them. We can't live them. And so then in that discovery of what's actually true for me, then we can begin to let go of the judgments that have kept us from being in that. And we can begin to step in and rediscover what it feels like to be in genuine masculine power, to be in genuine feminine power, and watch the magic. I love it when men and women find this and then they start coming back and going, oh my God, they're noticing me and this is happening and this conversation, and then to begin to live it step by step and day by day.
Yeah, so good. And Joanna, I just want to say on behalf of like everyone out there and everyone that you have touched so far and that you will continue to touch, like, thank you so much for doing this work. I mean, I just learned so much even from being in your presence for these past 30 minutes. And I am sure that our audience would love to get so much more from you. So if they would like to stay connected with you and continue to learn from you, how can they find you?
Yeah, they can find me at ecstaticintimacy.com. And one of the things that you might do there is there's a free resources page. And there is both a soulful lover quiz, which might be related to conscious lover. It not might be, it's they're parallel terms, but the very essence of what we're talking about. And also if this masculine and feminine question has been stirred up in you, there is also a masculine feminine test there to give you insights into your own authentic expression, whether it looks that way in the external world or not.
Beautiful. Yeah, I mean, the most powerful way to get started on this work, like Joanna, like you mentioned earlier, is getting clear on where we stand right now, our relationship with these terms. So go get stay connected with Joanna. And I also want to take this time to acknowledge everyone that's here right now, everyone that took the time to tune into this amazing conversation. And if this really spoke to you and touched you deeply, please share this with anyone in your life that you know can benefit. And together we can really make a powerful shift in this planet. Thank you so much, Joanna. Thank you. And everyone else, we'll see you again on our next episode.